reasonable sized town, although actually I think it's become a city, and it's a just magical, wonderful place, got an amazing culture, some wonderful vibe to it. If you ever visit the UK, then I would strongly suggest taking a day to go visit. It's wonderful. It's also next to the seaside, which is an added bonus. But it's got amazing shops, a lovely mixture of boutique, independent stores, and high street brands. So I went there recently and I picked up a few bits. I am a big fan of shopping. I don't get to do it very often because being self-employed, I have to look after the pennies. But I had a birthday recently and I had a bit left over, so I thought I would treat myself. So and amongst my purchases, I noticed that several of them might make good ASMR fodder. Now, I've not done one of these sort of trigger videos before, with lots of different sort of tappings and package crinklings, so apologies if it's not up to par. I will obviously do my best to improve as ever. But let's get this show on the road, shall we? Okay, so one of my favourite places in Brighton to shop is a place called Dave's Comics. I have become a big fan of comic books in the last 2-3 years, and as much as I enjoy getting them cheaper online, I always feel better about myself when I support a more local independent comic book shop. So let's see what I picked up. First thing is this delightful volume. Zoom out just a bit. Is this? It is Rat Queens Volume 3 Demons. Rat Queens is an amazing graphic novel series. If you are a fan of graphic novels, you should definitely check it out. Even if you are not a fan of graphic novels, you should check it out. It's this wonderful fusion of fantasy and humour and anything pretty much you could ever want. If, like me, you believed that graphic novels and comic books were about nothing more than superheroes running about in spandex, fighting the bad guys, then this comic will certainly change your mind. Basically, it's about these wonderful 4 women who are part of a mercenary band known as Rat Queens. And they are an odd assortment and pretty disreputable. They drink lots, they swear, they're violent. Basically, they're awesome. And it's hilarious and it's just wonderful. I was a bit skeptical about volume 3 because the artwork has changed quite a lot since the first volume and I was worried it wouldn't be as good. But as you can see, it's still pretty impressive. The illustrator of the first volume, who did such an amazing job, unfortunately he turned out to be a piece of work, scum of the earth type. I think he was done for it, domestic violence, so yeah, real scum of the earth, which makes me so sad because his illustrations are amazing. So he's been changing who illustrate. So we've been seeing different illustrators for each volume, and yeah, I'm always worried that they're not quite going to be able to capture the characters, but no, by the looks of it, I had a flick through. I'm pretty sure this one's gonna be okay. That looks very interesting. Yes, as I said, it's very violent, very graphic. Let's do a bit of not sure if you can hear that. But yes, definitely. If you're a fan of fantasy, humour, amazing characters, spangly art, definitely start reading Rat Queens. It's published by Image, which is pretty much one of only two imprints that I read graphic novel wise. I read pretty much exclusively them and Marvel. So yeah, I'm a slightly biased, but honestly it's worth it, they're brilliant. Okay, moving on to the next graphic novel I bought. I should probably say, if you're not aware of the difference between comic books and graphic novels, I don't want to risk patronising anyone, but a graphic novel is a collection of usually about 4 to 5 comic books, so you can either choose to buy them singularly as they're released, or you can wait and buy them as a collected edition, and in the UK they're easier to get in the collected edition, so that's what I tend to go for. So the second I picked up is this one, Monstrous. Now I actually purchased the comic book issue 1 of this when I visited Midtown Comics in New York, but I knew from the artwork that it was one that I was going to be very interested in purchasing once the collected edition graphic novel was released, because, well, I think you can see why. It's beautiful. Now, I'm actually aware of the author, who is Marjorie Liu, as she's written several young adult dystopia novels back when everyone was jumping on the Hunger Games bandwagon, and they were okay. I think I only read the first one of 3, I think was in the series. I think the first one was Legend, and as I said, it was alright. It wasn't anything spectacular, let's put it that way. So I'm a little sceptical about the story, but sometimes if the artwork's good enough, I can overlook that. I am incredibly superficial. So as you can see, it's very dark, very moody, but also very pretty. My favourite kind of artwork. I always admire illustrators of sort of graphic novels and manga, because for me, illustrating one of these panels would probably take about a month. Yet they are able to produce an entire book's worth of gorgeous, high quality illustrations, although that's not always the case. So yes, I would love to get to this point with my art, but I just can't draw it that much, unfortunately. Now, what's wonderful about Image Comics is that they understand that graphic novels are a big investment. So what they do is the first volume of every series they publish, it's a set price. In the UK, £7.50. So you can purchase the book at a slightly more reasonable price, and this is a monster of a graphic novel. That's one of the largest I've ever seen, which is amazing value for £7.50. And basically, I think the idea see if you like it, and then if you do, you'll be more willing to spend the £13-ish on the following volumes, which I think is a fantastic way of getting people interested. And it gets me every time. So although I know for a fact I could probably pick up this volume online for a lot cheaper, I am much more willing to purchase it for £7.50 in a comic book store. But yes, the second volume, when that comes out, will almost certainly be at least £12. For example, the Crab Rat Queens again, as you can see, £11, which still isn't that bad for a graphic novel. As for a really thin third volume in the Black Widow series that I'm actually reading at the moment, and that was £19. And I kid you not, it was about a quarter of the size of this book, and they wanted £19. Not happening, Marvel, sorry. You may wonder why my hands are covering up this one. It's because I started talking about it and then realised that the cover is a bit gruesome. Not terrible, but probably not really suitable for a nice, soothing, relaxing ASMR video. So I will keep my hands covering it. So this was a bit of a gamble, a bit of a punt for me, this one. As if you saw the cover, it's a very grim big guy on a motorbike, and just not something I would naturally pick up myself. Although I do have a bit of a soft spot and a weakness for anything set in and around Japan, because I'm a bit of a fan of Japan, not just in the anime, manga-y, nerdery type way, but I have an obsession with its history and its culture. It's such a fascinating place. So anything set in there, Japan, I'm there pretty much. But a friend of mine actually said to me that I might like this, and recommended it and let me flick through his. I was very sceptical, mainly because it just didn't sound like my thing when I read the back. But then I flicked through it. I'm going to see if I can find the image that I saw, which will be suitable for an ASMR video. So I've managed to find the right pages. So these are what became my interest, and eventually made the decision for me as to whether or not I buy it. Isn't it beautiful? And this isn't even the best page. Look at her. Look at that image. Let's ignore for the moment that the anatomy looks a little strange and that she quite possibly has broken her back in order to achieve this pose. But the soft colours, the pink, the warm pink against the cold green, so striking. Oh, just look at this. So beautiful. So yes, I decided to take a chance, and like I said, because it's only £7.50, because it's a volume 1, if I don't like it, then I haven't lost too much. I believe it's a post-apocalyptic style story, and I quite like those, so I like to try and keep an open mind at least. So I am quite looking forward to having a go at that one and hoping it's as good as its artwork. Okay, now I did buy one last thing from Dave's Comics. I temporarily forgot what the place was called. Now this was very much an impulse buy, but I couldn't resist it. It's Peggy Carter. I am obsessed with Agent Carter. I love her. I think she's an amazing character. And I was absolutely devastated when they announced that they were she's too fabulous a character to fade away. But she will live on in my memory in plastic form with a bobblehead. I honestly don't really get pop vinyls as such. I kind of think they're a bit pointless. I mean, they're cute and they do make really good gifts. This is the fourth one. I've got the other three I've received as gifts, because as soon as someone knows that you're into a fandom, and if you know pop vinyl, you know they've got vinyls for every fandom. You're automatically going to get one for your birthday or Christmas. But in memory of Peggy, I had to add this one to my collection. But as I said, I usually wouldn't buy these because, in all honesty, I think they're a bit of a waste of money. But I paid £12 for this one, and as I said, she's cute, but I mean, it's not exactly a detailed figurine. They're usually not particularly well painted, but it's Peggy. Allowances can be made. So the other three that I've got, which were bought for me, I've got Dean Winchester from Supernatural, because hello. I've got Daenerys Stormborn Targaryen, the one with the dragons, obviously from Game of Thrones, and I have my bobblehead Black Widow from Age of Ultron. So Agent Carter will sit and be queen of all in her fabulous little outfit. It's almost impossible. Sorry about that. It's almost impossible to keep up with the amount of pop vinyls they've released. I have to admit that tapping was never really one of my triggers, so I hope I'm doing well. Let me know if my tapping technique needs work. Okay, we're going to say goodbye to Peggy now. So, the second place I visited was again somewhere that I can usually get lost in and spend quite a lot of money if I'm not careful. And we found an art shop. Now, art shops in the UK are few and far between. We have something like a Michael's here called Hobbycraft, but they're horrendously overpriced and just don't seem to carry an awful lot of actual art supplies. It's mostly craft. I suppose it clues in the title. So I found this art shop in Brighton and I was very, very happy. So I managed to pick up a few little bits. So prepare for some crinkly packaging. The first thing I bought was this really cute little set, which actually didn't cost a lot more than just buying the items separately. So, as you can see, it's a craft knife set, and it comes with this little cute craft mat, which I would hazard a guess is about A5 in size. I have to pre-warn you that my cat's just come in, and she has a very bad habit of banging into the tripod and meowing very loudly. And when she meows, she sounds like a grum. Yeah. And when she meows, she sounds like a witchy old hag. So, apologies in advance. So the brand is Jacquard, and look, yes, there we go. It even says at the top A5. And not only do you get the little craft knife, you also get the spare blades. And I use this for my polymer clay crafting. If you don't know, I have a shop on Etsy where I sell handmade polymer clay figurines. I mostly make things like fairies and fantastical creatures. So, shameless plug alert, if you're into those kind of things, then there'll be a link down below. one thing that I've been missing is a really fine detail brush for my white ink, which is what I use to finish my paintings, to add highlights and correct any mistakes. There are usually a few, and the problem with buying paintbrushes online is that you're never really sure of the size, because they never compare them to anything else, which is why I was desperate to get to an art shop. So when I found this place, I made a beeline for their paintbrushes, and they had a whole wall of paintbrushes, and I was in my element. So you can't probably see the brush on this one because it's that ridiculously small. I'm gonna see if I can try and get my camera to focus on it, but I'll be honest, there you go. That is the size of this paintbrush. It's absolutely minuscule. I am hoping that I may also be able to use it in my newest obsession, which is doll customizations. And then the second brush is one that I've been after again for a while, and is a sable brush, which is sort of more of a traditional looking paintbrush. It's really hard because I haven't used it yet, but once you add it to water, I've seen people do amazing things with it. I think it's very good for absorbing and spreading water, so I am really, really looking forward to cracking this bad boy open. And having a go. I would like to try and do a watercolour painting video for my ASMR channel. I've got a couple on my main channel, but I'm not 100% sure if it'll work, if there will be enough sounds. Also, I'm usually very quiet when I paint, so one of those things that I may have to do a voiceover for it. But yes, I was very happy with these two brushes. They weren't too expensive. Depending on the brands you use, you can spend so much, but two of the whole lot, these two and the little craft knife set, both came to just over £10. So I was pretty happy with that. If you're from the UK and you're looking for relatively cheap, relatively reasonably priced art supplies, I should say, because they're not really cheap, then yeah, definitely try and find a Cass Art. I think I've also managed to find one in London as well, so I think they're kind of dotted about. I'm going to put these back in the crinkly bag, which is basically just an excuse to crinkle the bag again. Okay, now the last two things are actually clothing items. I'm not sure if my microphone's going to be good enough to pick up the sounds from these, but we shall have a go. So, a shop that I always seem to be able to find things that I like in and come away with a bag of something or other is a brand called Pull and Bear. I believe they're Spanish in origin, and unfortunately they're not particularly widespread, but they do have a store in Brighton, and as I say, I never fail to find anything, and this time was no different. So, I'm not sure, you probably won't be able to see all of this, especially not the other items I bought. But I bought this little short, loose, I suppose it's technically a crop top, but it's one of the longer crop tops, not the ones that basically look like bras. And it's got a really lovely pattern on it, which is actually quite interesting because, as you can maybe see, it's almost like they printed the fabric but then turned it inside out. apologies for scratching noises in the background. My cat's back. And she tends to make noise when she wants attention. Stop it. Pain in the arse. So, another reason why I like Pull and Bear is because their sizes are actually, they come up a bit larger. Every single store seems to have a different idea of what measurements each size is, if that makes any sense. So basically, a size 12 will be a completely different size in every single shop. There's no standard sizing, basically. That's a better way of saying it. But Pull and Bear, generally, their sizes are a bit larger. So basically you can, if you are, let's say, a size 12, so generally you can fit into sizes that are a little smaller probably than normal. So as superficial as that may sound, it does make me feel slightly better. So yes, that's my little crop top, and that was actually in the sale. I got this for $5.99 as opposed to $9.99. Now the good thing about Pull and Bear is that their prices are very reasonable. Equivalent in the UK would be sort of New Look prices, maybe H&M prices. And I love things that are cheap. Don't get me wrong, if I see something in Urban Outfitters that I really love, then I will splash out, because Urban Outfitters is one of the higher end high street brands. But if I can buy 3 things for the same price somewhere else, yay. Let's move that out of the way. So the last thing, unfortunately, I've left is probably the most boring. But we'll have a look anyway, because I reckon we might get some nice sounds out of it. It's a pair of jeans, which obviously are not going to fit into the shot. But I've folded them. And they are what is known as mom jeans, spelled M-O-M. And they're those wonderful ones that are really baggy around the crotch, and they come up right under your boobs. But the reason why I've wanted a pair of these is, despite the fact that they look pretty interesting, they are comfortable. I pretty much live in skinny jeans, which, if you are yourself aware of skinnies, male or female, you'll know that you don't really get an awful lot of room to manoeuvre. So having a pair of jeans that is a little looser means that it can be a little more comfortable. And actually the top and the jeans go quite well together. Oh. So let's pull these out. I quite like this detail here. So they're a light, sort of stone-washed colour. And I have to say I do prefer the lighter coloured jeans. They just look fresher, I think. I'm also realising that I'm actually stroking the crotch of these jeans, which is a bit odd. But then if I turn them over, I'd be stroking the bum, which is also just as weird. So I'm going to fold these back up. These were only $25.99, and turn them up just to make them a bit neater. I actually have quite a lot of trouble buying jeans because they usually are a bit short on me, or just trousers in general. So the fact that the fashion at the moment is to wear them around your ankles is usually good for me, and the fact that they're tapered. Me wearing flares is not a good look, because if you've ever heard the term ankle bashers, then yes, that's what I would be wearing. A proper pair of ankle bashers, whereas with the tapered leg you can get away with the more cropped versions. So I'm very happy with the current trends. They suit me better. I can buy jeans anywhere. Well, I think that's it. That's everything that I purchased in my little Brighton shopping haul. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and please let me know by giving this video a thumbs up or dropping a comment down below if you'd be interested in seeing more of these types of videos. And as I always say, if you've got any suggestions, tips, or any feedback on the content, please let me know. I will strive to improve with every video that I make, and I want to try and make the best content that I possibly can, as my channel is still very much in its early stages. I'm very much a noob, so exploring all of this for the